Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year.
Yeah. And Akimashite Omedetou Gozaimasu. I admit I kind of like the short version of that, the Akeome. Even though I know it's really bad Japanese, it's a lot easier for me to remember. Thank you very much for being here. It's kind of early, it's kind of cold. Your presence is an honor. I'm going to talk to you about longevity. Do we know what this means, longevity? Yeah. Another word for this is life extension. Life extension, okay? It has to do with people living longer and longer and how you can make it possible to live longer. I want to make today's lecture very practical for you and give you some very specific advice on how you can live longer and better. Okay? So that'll be our focus. But let me begin with a question. How long do you expect to live? On your handout, you have this scale. Please place a mark there from 30 to 110 where you think you expect to live. And then let me ask you what you wrote down. I'm going to use my arm as a kind of gauge. And this is 30 over here, and this is going to be 110 here, and I'm going to move my arm like this. And if you can just raise your hand when I get to your number, okay? So raise your hand when I get to your number. So over here, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, okay, 80, 90, 100, 110. Okay. We have some optimists here. That's good. Optimism, we will learn that optimism is very important to living a long time. Well, I'm going to suggest that all of you, that you might think that you're right by saying 80 or 90, and that's where most of you raised your hand. I'm going to suggest that you are wrong, that you are more likely to live longer than that. Okay? And this is why I think so. I'm going to go to Hans Rosling's Gapminder World. And this is a really interesting site, and I recommend that you write down just the Gapminder part, because you can find it later. And it'll take a moment to load, but I'm going to go to this site. Hans Rosling is a Swedish statistician, okay, a statistics person. And he's developed a means of showing graphs using a variety of different variables. Okay, these sort of multivariate graphs. And he first became famous through a TED Talk that he gave many years ago. But he makes these wonderful graphs. Okay, so here I've just gone to this site, and I'm going to make it as big as possible for you and try to get rid of some of the garbage on the screen. Okay. And explain a little bit about it, because it's probably a little bit difficult for you to see. What we have on the left side here is life expectancy. Okay? And what we have down here is income per person. Now this doesn't really matter for us today, but this does. Life expectancy. Now, what all these bubbles represent are different countries. Okay? And the more populous the country, the bigger the bubble. So for example, this blue one here, this is India. Okay? And this red one here is, can you guess? China. Okay. All right. And as we go this way, we have the countries with more money. You know, the people in the country have more money. And as you go higher, the countries, the people that live longest. Okay? And so if we go way over here, we may wonder, who are the richest people in the world? I was kind of curious about that. There aren't many of them. Oh, Qatar, okay, this is in the Middle East. They have a lot of oil. Okay, it's not because they work hard, it's just because they have a lot of oil, okay. Not like these people here, who I know work very hard, the Japanese. And look where you are on that chart. You're at the very top in terms of how long you live. Okay, now this, you knew this already. Okay, but it hasn't always been this way. What I'd like to do is show you how this has changed over time using some of the tools in this chart. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just click on Japan, and that way we can focus on Japan and kind of make all the other countries go away. And I'm going to go to the time dial down here, and I'm going to go back. Let's go back 100 years. Okay, we can go back way back, but let's just go back 100 years. Well, let's go back to 1900. Okay, that'll do. Okay, and I'm going to show how this has changed over time. And I have this little dial down here. I can adjust the speed, and I can play. And we can see. Now this is interesting. I don't know how well you can see, but there are a bunch of other small bubbles here. And Japan didn't used to be at the top in terms of how long they lived, okay? There's a lot of other countries where people live longer. But let's show how it's changed over the time for Japan. Okay, so I'm playing this now. You can see how it's changing. Okay. Japanese people are living longer and longer over time. Okay, here we're really moving up now. We're doing great. Whoa! What happened there? And it looks to me like Japan has been living longer than other people for quite a while, too. If you notice that the red circle is there at the top for a while. Okay. And we're at the top now. Okay, so right in here, we know what happened, right? World War II. Yeah. 1945. Okay, very bad year for Japan. But since then, a very steep climb out in both wealth and longevity. All right, so what I'd like to ask you now, okay, right now we're at the sort of 80 to 85 range, 80 to 85. Most of you said 80 to 90, yeah, the same. But this is now, okay? 60 years from now, this is likely to keep going up, okay? Look at the trend. So I'm going to suggest that you are going to live a lot longer than you think. Okay. But this brings us to another question. Do you want to live longer? Okay. What is your image of old people? Let me see if I can back out of this gracefully. I'm not sure if I can. I couldn't. Let me get back to my show. This may be the image that many of you have about growing old. And this is not very attractive. It's not very desirable. And so living a long time might not be something that you want. Okay? And I understand this sentiment. This is from a rock song I liked when I was young, from The Who. It's just a line, I hope I die before I get old. I felt this way when I was young. I had no interest in becoming old. Okay? Here's another saying, live fast, die young, and leave a good-looking corpse. Corpse is a dead body. Okay? This came from a movie in the 1950s. Okay, very common sentiment for young people. And there are lots of examples of people who did just this. Do we know who this is? He was a famous actor of the 50s, I believe. Anybody know? James Dean. James Dean. Yeah, died in a car crash, driving too fast in his Porsche, I believe. James Dean, 24 years old. Okay, just a little bit older than you are now. Very famous musician. Some people feel maybe the best guitarist ever. Do we know who this is? Jimi Hendrix. Yeah. Okay. 27. Not too much older than you. This is a harder one. This is a few years ago, a more recent death. A very, very promising actor from Australia. You might have known him in this role, The Dark Knight, one of the Batman movies. Do we remember this character? I'm afraid we might be going back. Anybody know who it is, the actor? Heath Ledger. Heath Ledger. He was found dead in his New York City apartment just a few years ago. 28. Okay, so it's still happening now. And here's the most famous of them all. Marilyn Monroe. Not quite as young as the rest. 36. Okay? She was very beautiful when she died. She left a very good-looking corpse. But the problem with this is that once you die, it's over. Okay? Your life is done. And I know that for me, and I think that when you get older like me, you won't want this. In my situation, this is me with my kids and my wife. And I want to see my kids grow old, right? I want to see them grow up. I want to see them go to school like you. I want to see them get married. I want to see them, have happy lives. And I want to see their grandkids, or their kids, my grandkids. So my thoughts about aging now is that this is what we want. We want to be old, but we still want to be genki. Okay? We want more good years. All right? More good years to enjoy. My father is about this age. My father's 80. Okay? And he's a happy guy. Okay? He enjoys his life. He does a lot of travel. His wife died, but he has a new girlfriend. Okay? It's weird to talk about, your father, 80 years old, he has a girlfriend. But he does. They do all kinds of trips together. He still skis. He drives a big motorcycle. He is enjoying his life at 80. I want that. I want to be able to run on a beach like this. Okay? So, I've looked into this. And how long do I expect to live? And so this is a test that I did a few years ago. At the time, I was about 51, I guess. But I did this test where I filled out a survey about how I eat and my job and my relationships and whether my parents have cancer or not, how long people live, that kind of thing. And it's a kind of calculator on how long you can expect to live. And it told me that I'm pretty healthy, because at the time I was about 51, but it said that my biological age was about this. Okay? And that I can expect to live to about 95. Okay? But this is the important part here. I can have disease-free life expectancy until about 87. Now this is what I want. I want to be genki in my 80s. Okay? I want to be able to ski. I want to be able to ride my bike. I want to be able to, still be having fun. Okay? And that basically, because I have a fairly healthy lifestyle, I have kind of gained some years. I've gained some extra years that are going to carry me forward. Okay? Because I eat pretty well and I exercise and I try to keep the weight off. So this has to do with years that you've gained. Okay? So I want to kind of focus on this idea a little bit about how it's possible to gain some years. Which brings us to my first major point, that lifestyle matters. And when I say matters, it means makes a difference. This is a verb, makes a difference. Okay? Now, our bodies are engineered, they're designed to live about 90 years. But most people in your country and my country combined live about 80 years on average. So there's a gap of 10 years here. And I put a negative symbol here to show that it's basically that by having stress in our lives, by not eating very well, by not exercising enough, that sort of thing, we lose some years. So we don't want to do that. We'd rather gain some years than lose years, right? So how does that happen? How do people gain years? How do they kind of maximize their time on earth so that they can live a long time? And one way to look at this is through looking at the people who live in what are called blue zones. Okay, blue zones. I don't know why they use the term blue zones, but what's been identified is that there's 7 different areas, I believe, in the world where there are pockets, small groups of people who are living very long lives. Okay? And by looking at these different groups and seeing how these people live and comparing them, we can kind of determine what the common factors are. Okay? So the person that's behind this is this guy named Dan Buettner. Okay? And he works for National Geographic magazine. And he's gone around and studied all these people. And he did a very interesting TED Talk on this topic, which I will show you. And I'm just going to show you part of it. And it happens to be about a blue zone in Japan. Do you know where it might be? Do you know where the people that live the longest in Japan might be? Okinawa. Okay. Okinawa, yeah. Not everybody lives a long time in Japan. And not everybody lives a long time in Okinawa. A lot of people are kind of fat in Okinawa, you know. I mean, because of the American military bases that are there, and all the fast food and the driving and kind of the bad American influence. So Okinawa has the highest obesity, fat people rate in Japan. But there are still old people that live the old life, and they're the ones who live a long time. Okay, not the young people. So let's focus on them. Just listen to this video. It'll be a little bit fast. There will be some subtitles on the bottom, but just get the basic idea, okay?
Our second blue zone on the other side of the planet, about 800 miles south of Tokyo on the archipelago of Okinawa. Okinawa is actually 161 small islands. And the northern part of the main island, this is ground zero for world longevity. This is a place where the oldest living female population is found. It's a place where people have the longest disability-free life expectancy in the world. They have what we want. They live a long time and tend to die in their sleep very quickly. And often, I can tell you, after sex. They live about 7 good years longer than the average American, 5 times as many centenarians as we have in America, 1/5 the rate of colon and breast cancer, big killers here in America, and 1/6 the rate of cardiovascular disease. So the fact that this culture has yielded these numbers suggests strongly they have something to teach us. What do? Once again, a plant-based diet, full of vegetables with lots of color in them, and they eat about 8 times as much tofu as Americans do. More significant than what they eat is how they eat it. They have all kinds of little strategies to keep from overeating, which, as you know, is a big problem here in America. A few of the strategies we observe, they eat off of smaller plates. They tend to eat fewer calories at every sitting. Instead of serving family style, where you can sort of mindlessly eat as you're talking, they serve at the counter, put the food away, and then bring it to the table. They also have a 3,000-year-old adage, which I think is the greatest sort of diet suggestion ever invented. It was invented by Confucius. And that diet is known as the Hara Hachi Bu diet. It's simply a little saying these people say before their meal to remind them to stop eating when their stomach is 20% full. It takes about a half hour for that full feeling to go travel from your belly to your brain, and by remembering to stop at 80%, it helps keep you from doing that very thing. But like Sardinia, Okinawa has a few social constructs that we can associate with longevity. We know that isolation kills. 15 years ago, the average American had 3 good friends. We're down to 1.5 right now. If you were lucky enough to be born in Okinawa, you were born into a system where you automatically have a half a dozen friends with whom you travel through life. They call it a moai. And if you're in a moai, you're expected to share the bounty if you encounter luck. And if things go bad, a child gets sick, a parent dies, you always have somebody who has your back. This particular moai, these 5 ladies have been together for 97 years. Their average age is 102. Typically in America, we've divided our adult life up into 2 sections. There's our work life, where we're productive, and then one day, boom, we retire. And typically that has meant retiring to the easy chair or going down to Arizona to play golf. In the Okinawa language, there's not even a word for retirement. Instead, there's one word that imbues your entire life, and that word is ikigai. And roughly translated, it means the reason for which you wake up in the morning. And for this 102-year-old karate master, his ikigai was carrying forth this martial art. For this 100-year-old fisherman, it was continuing to catch fish for his family 3 times a week. And this is a question. The National Institute on Aging actually gave us a questionnaire to give these centenarians. And one of the questions, they were very culturally astute to people with the questionnaire. One of the questions was, what is your ikigai? They instantly knew why they woke up in the morning. For this 102-year-old woman, her ikigai was simply her great-great-great-granddaughter. 2 girls separated in age by 101.5 years. And I asked her what it felt like to hold a great-great-great-granddaughter, and she put her head back and she said, it feels like leaping into heaven. I thought that was a wonderful thought.
It feels like leaping into heaven. How many greats was that? Great granddaughter. Okay, yeah. Well, I had my kids a little bit late in life, so I can't expect that. But I would love to at least see my grandkids, or maybe great-grandkids. I'm not sure. So how about you? You have an ikigai? You're at a liberal arts college, right? You're looking for what you might want to study. But think about that. Having a purpose, and now are some good years to be thinking about what that purpose is for the rest of your life. Finding it. Harahachibu. Okay. I know I have a lot of trouble with this one. I love to eat, especially at dinner time. And having a moai. Hopefully you are developing friendships through your section mates, through your clubs, through your circles. Maybe you have some great friends from high school still. Maintain those relationships. Carry them through your lives, because it's going to help you live longer. So, that was Okinawa. A certain group of people within Okinawa. It's one of the blue zones. There are 4 different secrets to why these people in blue zones tend to live longer than other people in the world. Okay, one of them is that they tend to move naturally. Okay, they may not be fitness freaks, but they do get out and they move. Okay. A lot of these blue zones tend to be kind of in hilly places, mountainous places. I know a couple of weeks ago I went to Mitake-san. Do you know where Mitake Mountain is? in West Tokyo. It's a very nice place. It's in Tokyo. And it's a little village that's up, you can take a cable car up or hike up. I hiked up. And I got up there and I remember thinking, this is probably a blue zone. This is probably a place where people live a long time, because there's a small village of people living up on this mountain. And I asked the people at this inn, I was staying at this inn, and there was the mama-san, and then the mama-san's mother. And I asked her how old she was, and she said she was 84 or something. But she was still working. The mama-san's mother was still working. And then she said, but she plans to live a long time because her mother lived to 106. 106. Okay, so I think that was a little blue zone near Tokyo. Mitake-san. So you should check that out. But for the rest of us, move naturally. How many of you ride your bikes? Did you ride your bike to school today? Yes, yes. When I was a college student in America, I drove a car to school, okay? So I admire you for riding your bikes. How many of you do a lot of walking? Regularly walk. Okay, some of you. Good. Okay. You might be surprised that as a Tokyo person, you do a lot of walking. When I have friends come from overseas to Japan, I always tell them, bring good shoes for walking. Okay? Because Tokyo life has a lot of walking. It's amazing. So you might do more than you think. Stairs. Okay, I won't embarrass anyone by asking who rides the elevator in the home con. I won't ask that. But I do see a lot of people, hopefully none of you, standing at the elevator over there waiting to get in and go up. Use the stairs. You'll live longer. Okay? I know that for me, when I go to a train station or whatever, I always take the stairs. I don't do the escalator. Kotatsu, a wonderful Japanese lifestyle tool that's good. You're sitting on the tatami, you have to get all the way down there, you have to get all the way up. I know that your grandparents probably have much more flexibility and strength in their hips than my parents, say, who always sit in chairs. So this is another great aspect about the Japanese lifestyle. It's very healthy. So think about this. If you're not using the stairs, do. If you're not, riding your bike, do. If you are riding your bike, consider walking to the station from time to time. It's a nice walk. It only takes about 30 minutes to get to Musashi Sakai. Only 30 minutes. I used to know a student who got off the train at Mitaka, and she would walk to school from Mitaka. Yeah, because she just liked walking. Another point, another secret. Have the right outlook. This has to do with attitude. I mentioned earlier about optimism, living 7 years longer. Here's a picture of two very happy people. A mother loving her daughter, a daughter in the embrace of her loving mother. They both can feel very good about their lives. So, feeling that you have something to look forward to, feeling that your life is comfortable, managing your stress, getting out, enjoying the day, okay? It's a beautiful day out, doing something fun with that. I mentioned stress, managing that in some way is very, very important. The things that you're doing with your club activities, if you play music, if you have special interests, pursuing those are great. I don't know if anybody of you have ever done this before, meditated on the beach. Has anybody tried to do this, sit and meditate on the beach? Anybody tried? All right, Daniel back there. Okay, good. The older people, not the younger people. This is a good thing to do. I was doing this once in Okinawa. I thought I was so cool, sitting on the beach, meditating. And then I felt something on my oshiri. And I thought, what is that? And I thought, is it just an itch or what? But I kept feeling this, like something on my oshiri. And so I got up, and there was a little hole, and there was a crab, And I was sitting on his hole, okay? And he was like, let me up, okay? So it kind of stopped my meditation on the beach. Again, same idea. Enjoying a cup of coffee on a nice morning with someone you love, knowing that you have a good day to look forward to. This is all healthy. Secret 3, eat and drink wisely. Now we always hear about this, and I know you know a lot about diet. Just let me ask you, what should you eat? What are good, healthy things to eat? Vegetables. Let me hear you say vegetables. Vegetables. Yeah, I'm sure your parents say this. What else? What else do we eat? Fish. Yeah, fish are good. What else? Rice. I'm gonna get in trouble for this. Rice. People always, whenever I ask you, you say rice. I'm gonna say no. Rice, not so much. But I'm going to hide behind the desk before I say that, okay? White rice, I know it's Japanese, I know it's tradition, but there isn't much in white rice. It just kind of fills you up. Yeah, there's not much nutrition. Sorry. What else? Fruit, nuts, seeds. Yeah. Those are the healthy things, yeah. And you have all these, roots, and all kinds of interesting kind of vegetables in Japan too. So basically, yeah, we know vegetables, we know fruits. Here's something that's very interesting. I was reading the other day about this kind of famous doctor guy in America, and he said that ideally, the percentage of fruits and vegetables that you should have in your diet is 80%. That's a lot. Okay. I think most of us probably have 10% or 20%. We might have this and then a little bit of fruit, a little bit of vegetables, right? But ideally 80% plus maybe some fish, some nuts, some seeds, something like that. That would be ideal. Another thing that's with this extra 20%, it's said that with meat, that the fewer the legs, the better. So fish, how many legs are in fish? 0, right? So that's the healthiest meat. The next healthiest is going to be something like chicken. 2 legs. And then you go down to like pork and beef and all that, 4 legs. Okay? So that's just something to think about. The fewer the legs, the better. Here's another thing. Color. With your fruits and your vegetables, the more color, the better. Because the color that's in the skin for these various things has very different kinds of micronutrients, all of which can be very healthy for you. So bright colors are very important that most of us don't think about. Okay? Question. Between fruits and vegetables, which is more healthy? Fruits or vegetables? Yeah. How many people say vegetables? How many people say fruit? And the answer is vegetables. Okay. This may not be our typical vegetable, a sweet potato, but yeah, vegetables tend to have more nutrients. And I recently read that the vegetable that has the most nutrients is the sweet potato. Yeah, there's more in a sweet potato than any other vegetable. Interesting. So the yaki imo man is the yaki imo. My kids love yaki imo, but it's good for you. It's healthy. It's a great snack. Yeah. But, did you like that? I love that. Can I do it again? Watch. Fruits are good too. Fruits are good too. Apples, if you're worried about your weight, apples only have about 40 calories. Okay, so they're a great way to kind of eat something and not have a lot of calories. Now, there's a lot of confusion about food. And I know that for me, I've watched how we used to say, there's butter, and then we had what's called margarine. I'm not sure if do we say margarine in Japanese? Margarine, okay. And we went, and it was like, margarine is better. This is 20 years ago or so. But now it's like, no, butter's better. Okay, so it's kind of changed. Eggs. We used to eat eggs when I was young. And then it's like, no, eggs are bad for the heart. And now I say, no, eggs are okay. Coffee's bad. And now it's kind of like, coffee's okay, coffee's good. So there's a lot of confusion. So because of this writer, Mike Pollan, who writes for the New York Times, and he's written some books on nutrition, he says that all you need to know about food can be summarized in 7 words. 7 words. Here they are. Eat food. Okay. And what he means by eat food is he means whole food. He means eat the kind of food that your grandparents ate. So foods that grow out of the ground, for example, or that you can catch, like fish. Not things that come in a package. Okay, so your fruits, your vegetables, your nuts, your seeds, your fish, your whole foods. Mostly plants. And hara-hachi-bu. Not too much. The 7 words you need to know about food. Okay? Did you like that? Can I do that again? Eat food, mostly plants, not too much. Punctuation mark. Okay. Hi. What should you drink? Water. Water's great. Water's great. What else? Coffee. And I just said, coffee's fine. Now we feel like coffee's good. Yeah. What else? Sake. Sake, alcohol in moderate amounts. Moderate amounts. Not too much is good, and sake is kind of a nice, natural thing. Yeah. What else? Tea. Yeah, tea. Green tea. Japanese green tea. Great stuff, And they say that it's better if you're drinking green tea, if you make it yourself, you make it with the actual ground up leaves. It's much better than if you get it in a bottle, that it doesn't have the same stuff, what's in the bottle. But you need to actually make it. Yeah. Milk. Milk's good. Milk can actually be kind of fattening. There's a lot of sugar in milk, but people don't realize that. But milk's pretty good. All that's good. You mentioned sake before. For alcohol, we oftentimes say red wine. Of the alcohols, moderate amounts. Not too much red wine is good. And this led to what was called the French paradox. A few years ago, there was a lot of interest in the French diet because what was found was that the French people had much less heart disease than American people. Okay, they had about 1/5 as much heart disease, or in other words, Americans had 5 times as much heart disease as the French. And why? Well, one thing we knew is that they did drink more red wine. So a lot of people thought, it's because of the red wine. And the people who produced and sold red wine, they wanted to market it as a health drink. Okay, But more research was done, and questions were asked about the diet. You know, why did they have this high-fat diet? Because they ate a lot of cheese too, and a lot of bread, and a lot of stuff that's kind of fattening. But why, with this kind of diet, did they have less heart disease? Was it the red wine, or was it the relaxed lifestyle? Because the French are pretty relaxed. They enjoy their free time. Or fats from real foods, not processed. Okay? Because they tend to eat fewer packaged foods and more kind of proper, good foods. And what was determined was that it's probably the result of all three things that the French have less heart disease. The wine and the lifestyle and the proper whole foods. Okay? Not just the wine. All right? You'll have a quiz question on that at the end. Okay. The final secret. Connect socially. What you're doing now at ICU by having sections, having your compas with sections, belonging to a circle, belonging to a club, all of this is good. Okay? An additional thing that's been found with the blue zones is that the people in these blue zones tended to be religious. They tended to be religious. They tended to have a common belief. But simply for you, organized activities that bring you together, as I mentioned, with clubs and circles, and just spending time with your friends. We all know that having a good laugh can be very therapeutic. So all of this is good, just connecting socially. Continuing with this idea that lifestyle matters, we tend to have this belief that the genes that we have in our body are kind of fixed, you know, that we inherit them from our parents, and they're fixed, they're not going to change. But this person, Dean Ornish, he's a medical researcher at the University of California, Los Angeles, UCLA. He's done a lot of research on longevity, and he has determined that our genes are not our fate, that our genes are not fixed, and that some of them are changeable. He has determined that if we have a bad lifestyle, if we're not exercising and we're eating badly and we have a high stress job, and we change all that to a good lifestyle, that we can change some of the way some of our genes work. Okay? And they've determined that even within a short amount of time, even 1 month difference, they've been able to detect changes in certain genes. His research has determined that some 500 genes in our body can be changed by lifestyle differences. Okay, so some genes can actually be turned on. These are the ones that fight disease. Okay, and we have these other genes that are in our bodies that are actually trying to make us die, because it's not really good for us as a species to just live forever, right? So we have genes in our body that are trying to make our bodies die, just so we don't live forever and kind of be a burden on society. And some of these genes can be turned off. Okay, now 500 seems like a lot. There's actually about 23,000 genes in the body. So it's actually a fairly small percentage, 500 out of 23,000. But, this is new information, that some genes can be changed. Okay? the final part of the lecture. Are we doing okay? Okay. We're getting down to the end. The future of longevity is long. Okay. I want to focus on two people. One of them is this person, Ray Kurzweil. Has anybody heard of him before? Ray Kurzweil? Yeah. As you get into, right now you're in the bioethics part of the term. As you get into the visions of the future in a few weeks, he would be a person to look up, okay? Because he's a futurist. And he's done a lot of work with predicting the future, okay? And he has a very high success rate. And one of the things he predicts about is aging, okay? And he feels, and this is a very strong statement, that one can live well forever. He thinks it may be possible for people to start living forever. I'm not sure this is a good thing, but the way that this is possible is through what he calls a bridge to a bridge to a bridge theory. The first bridge involves taking care of yourself now. For example, eating well, eating our fish, eating our vegetables, eating our fruit, eating our nuts, okay? So eating healthily now. So here's our first bridge. A healthy lifestyle. That can include, stress reduction and exercise and all that. Okay. And if you take care of yourself now and wait a few years, we'll get to some new developments in biotechnology. Okay. New technologies that are being developed now, but we're not quite ready for them. Okay? So that's our second bridge. And if we can kind of just get to this next bridge, that can make us live a little bit longer until we get to the third bridge, which can help us live longer yet. And that third bridge involves nanotechnology. Okay? And I think we all know what nanotechnology is. For example, the possible development of little nanobots, where you take nanotechnology and robots and you combine them together, and putting nanobots into the bloodstream that could move around in your body and actually fight disease. Okay? These sort of things are expected in the future. Okay? A bridge to a bridge to a bridge. Okay? Biotech is coming soon. There's a person who specializes in this area. His name is Aubrey de Grey. Great name. I wish I had a name like that. He's a British molecular biologist. He works at Cambridge University. You can see him on TED. Ray Kurzweil, you can see on TED. And he believes that in the future people may live as long as 1,000 years. Okay. His main claim is aging is a disease and curable. It's not just something that happens, it's actually a disease. It's like cancer, where it might be something that we can actually cure, like we oftentimes do with cancer anymore. This is a little bit complicated. You don't need to worry about the details. But he feels that we can defeat aging through the genetic cellular re-engineering, changing the engineering. We can remove genes that cancer cells will need and feed on. Eliminate toxic genes. I mentioned before that there are some genes that are trying to make us die, and you can just remove those. And then use stem cell technology. And we know there's been great developments of that, especially in Japan, to replace old lost cells. Okay? So through these sort of technologies, he feels that we will, before too long, be greatly extending our lives. Okay? Now, I'm not going to go into this. Sorry, I have one more point with Aubrey de Grey. This is kind of an interesting graphic. The longevity escape velocity. Escape velocity has to do with the amount of speed that's required for a rocket to get into space. Okay, we know that the Earth has a lot of gravity, right? And the further away you get from the Earth, the less the gravity. But you need a lot of speed and a lot of power to get out of the Earth's pull, right? And he likens that to aging, okay, and death. And so with this graphic, what he basically says is that, so this is death down here. And that for somebody who's old already, we don't really have the new technologies, lifestyle differences aren't going to make much difference. You're likely to die, in a few years. So if you're 100 years old now, you're going to die pretty soon. If you're 80 years old, you might be able to take advantage of some, lifestyle changes and technologies, and it might extend your life. Okay, so people that are 80 might have, some expectation of a longer life. For people that are 50, it may be possible to experience this bridge to a bridge to a bridge, right? Stay healthy, get the biotechnology, get the nanotechnology, and you might almost die, but then we get the new technology. I'm 55, so I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to be here or make it. But for people that are 30, for people like you, it may be that you might, not even have to suffer the bad effects of aging, according to Bob Gray, according to him. Okay. Now, what does this all mean from an ethical point of view? I'm not going to get into that, but that's a whole other lecture. That's a whole other lecture. We already know what the aging population, the aging population in Japan issue, how big that is in Japan. I know that since I've been in Japan for 25 years, to me it's noticeable how there are more older people. Big changes when I just look around. Is it good? When people start living to 100 on average, or 150 on average, is that good for society? So we have the consequences of this, okay? And we can get into other ethical considerations as well, okay? But that's for another lecture. In conclusion, I focused more on what you can do to have a healthy life, how you can extend your good years, which I think is important for me because I'm kind of getting later in my years, but I think it'll be important for you. And I know there's a lot of things I kind of wished I'd done a little bit differently when I was younger and maybe been a little bit more health conscious. And I'd like to kind of end this lecture with an image of a hero for me. I don't think anybody is going to know who this is, maybe not even Daniel or Mikiko. No, yeah. Okay, when I was growing up, this guy was really famous. He was on TV all the time. I mean, he was like Mr. Fitness. And he was the first guy who would be on TV and show do like workouts and things like that, and the housewives, would try to do the same things as him. And, he's the first guy who started to make a gym where you can go and work out. He's the guy who started that whole thing, the whole fitness boom in America. Jack LaLanne, really important guy. He set a lot of world records for fitness. He once did 1,023 push-ups in 23 minutes. Okay, I could do about 15. He did over 1,000. He also did 1,000 pull-ups. 1,000. How many pull-ups can you do? Okay. Pull-ups are really hard. I can do maybe 5. And I try. I work on it. He did 1,000. He did all these kind of crazy things. He just died fairly recently. He died at age 96. Okay, he was exercising the day before he died. The day before he died, he was still exercising. Okay, and so he's kind of my hero. I love this quotation: "I can't die; it would ruin my image." And that's what I want for you. I want you to be strong, right up to the end, good, healthy lives, and then when you die, then it's just kind of quick, easy death. Okay? Owarimasu. Thank you.